Welcome to the stream. Happy Saturday. We have 3 more Raging Loop stories in this extra tab, so we're gonna tackle the next one. And then we're gonna get to some Nier Automata, and then I don't know. There might be. I'm saying this now. I might end up having plans later tonight on this lovely Saturday night, but there's a chance that I don't. That they don't formulate. So we have an option of going later if we want to, like having a nice size stream as far as things go with Nier Automata. So much so that I don't want to say what the game is, but maybe depending on how Nier Automata goes and how late we go, maybe I can switch up games to a 3rd game even today. The possibility is there. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Mainly on the docket, we're gonna read this thing, and then we're gonna just play some Nier Automata and see how that goes. All right, great. Tomorrow, Sunday, hoping. I woke up I was up so late last night. I woke up today. Especially for myself, this is way out of the norm. I'm usually up just because I'm an adult with normal responsibilities, but I was up like right before like noon today. But I was up until like 4 in the morning last night doing stuff. So that was on me. I meant to be on stream earlier. But tomorrow, I'm hoping not to repeat the same thing tomorrow. That's why I'm saying this, is because tomorrow should be like, hopefully an all-day affair where we're getting stream 2 of Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm excited to start really getting more into that. I think we did the first like 3 or so hours, 4 hours. I think the stream itself was like 4.5 hours or so, but depending on how much. I just barely got my feet wet in that, but I'm excited to do a big day stream of that tomorrow. And then Monday, since we're not doing it today, I talked about this a bit last night, but to Monday, holiday, I should be doing another day stream, I would imagine, but probably not anything too crazy or early or anything, but we should be finishing up episode 2 of The Devil, and then going from there. That's the busy schedule for the next 3 days. What is this? Writer versus Mystery Station horror. Our intrinsic journalist eventually finds a mystery she didn't ask for. This has got to be our lady whose name I definitely remember from this long ago. Can the wise boy save her from the heretical land illuminated by the light of madness? I think I recall someone telling me that this was maybe the most interesting story, but then I heard from a different source that this is maybe the longest of the extra stories, possibly. So if that's the case, we're probably not going to be able to tackle, obviously, 2 stories. You know, in an ideal land, this would take me like an hour to an hour and a half, and maybe I tackle 2, but I do want to get to a good amount of Nier Automata, so we may just be tackling this one. Yes, this is Housei. Mafia です。お世話になっております。もしや何かありましたか? I mean, Mamiya, pleased to talk to you again. Did something happen? Hisako, Mamiya. I remember the name now. And not only just because it's on my screen. いえ、新聞見てますが、外からはちょっと分かりづらいことが起きてたら嫌だなと。そうですか。それは何よりです。Well, I do read the newspapers, but I just wouldn't like it if there was something I couldn't understand from the outside. Oh, good to know. まあ、よくあることですよ。なんとかストック使ったので、原稿は落とさずに済みました。Huh? Well, that happens a lot. I used what I had stocked up, so I didn't end up getting dropped as a contributor. I think Mamiya is an interesting character because I think of all the characters, I think she probably has the biggest delta and the biggest difference between like how much she is featured in the main game versus how much people might think she has like a lot of potential or like wasn't explored enough. Does that make sense? I bet again, pulse of the Raging Loop fandom, I don't know, and I have not checked. But my bet, if I had to bet my life savings, I would bet that if you could measure it somehow, I bet there'd be a good handful of people that are Mamiya character fans that also she was like featured the least and had like almost seemingly the least importance. Like she had a bit of that lore dump at the end. She was killed off early in the first third to half of the game. So she didn't obviously get to be explored then, really. So she was just a killing plot device thing. And then even when she stayed throughout the game, she was mostly paired up with her photographer coworker guy. And he obviously dominated screen time during his run. So, like, she's interesting. You know what I mean? Whatever. That's just a point I wanted to make. So, why did you call me? Huh?
いえ、よく覚えておられましたね。私がそういうのを昔書いてたって雑談。いえいえ、大丈夫です。
Surprised you remember that I used to write about that. Oh, don't worry.
実はあります、心当たり。というか、私が通ってた研究室なら紹介はできちゃいますね。
I actually do know something like that. In fact, I can introduce you to the seminars I went to.
ただ、いいんです。地方ですし、そんなに評価が高い大学じゃないですよ。いえ、公立なんで学費は高くないですが。
But are you sure? It's in the countryside. It's not a very prestigious college. It's public though, so it's at least cheap.
わかりました。私なんかで恐縮ですが。いえいえ、そんな結構ですよ。ついでですし。ええ。
Okay, I can do that if you're fine with me. Oh, no need for that. It's just an extra.
それじゃあ細かい記述はメールで。いや、それは無理か。明日くらいまで待っていただけます？またかけます。
I'll email you the exact date. Oh, that won't work. Can you wait until tomorrow? I'll write you again.
あ、そちらのお電話番号伺ってもよろしいですか？番号通知がないみたいなんで。85と。
Can I have your phone number? It's not on here. Alright, 85. As she wrote down the number, she looked at the clock. She was almost running late, so she switched gears. Repeating the number, she skillfully avoided the pedestrians and approached the station.
はい、承知しました。はい、失礼します。
Okay, I understand. Hello? Excuse me? As she ended the call, she, the freelance writer, Hisako Mamiya, put her phone in her bag and ran. She was on the move. She had to participate in a press conference regarding a contamination caused by a certain food company. She normally worked behind a desk, so this day was special in that it was mostly field work. Hisako would have to worry about the content of the call later.
にしても、くそ暑いわね。
But wow, it's so damn hot. It was July. The Tokyo heat was reminiscent of the tropics, and no one could blame her for cursing about it. A few hours later, she was near Shinjuku Station. Hisako was slowly staggering inside. Oh, one other thing. I feel like I woke up this morning as late as I did, and I felt like I was losing my voice slightly. And I want to say I don't think I'm sick, but we've had like pretty heavy rain the last couple of days. So I want to say it's like maybe allergies related. So apologies, especially if I start getting like an hour in and I start completely losing my voice. But we're gonna press through. The press conference was utter chaos. The company's PR were making excuses while newspaper reporters were barraging them with questions. To Hisako, that wasn't a bad thing, since she could use the very station for a humorous article. However, the other freelance journalists invited her to drink and dragged her out until it was late at night. All of them had grudges against newspaper and TV journalists, so they had a good time complaining about them. Hisako, however, had been very uncomfortable throughout the whole thing.
ごめんなさい。なんかそんなすごいこと考えてもないのにこの場にいて。
Sorry, I don't actually hate them that much. I don't belong here. Hisako was a journalist, but at the same time she was an entertainment writer, and she was fully aware of that. She was the type to reveal new info just so the others could have fun. That got her some donations, so this was another part of her work tour. Her pride as a journalist didn't go beyond not writing lies and contacting the primary source herself. The other journalists seemed to be more about exposing the truth and defeating the media, and Hisako couldn't relate to that. Wasn't that just a facade? The desire to see things you shouldn't, the desire to laugh at others' misfortune, the desire to gain an advantage by knowing things no one else knew, the desire to take the moral high ground. Such desires were common to mankind, and wasn't journalism just a trade to present such products to the masses? They already violated laws and social norms to get new info. Didn't they have to put their lives on the line for their trade to work for their customers? If something wasn't going well, wasn't it because they weren't doing their jobs right?
ブーメランだな。
Right back at me, I suppose. Forcing a self-deprecating smile, she drank some of her shochu, and by the time it was time to leave, she'd emptied the whole bottle. With some of the others worrying about her, she parted ways with them.
大丈夫だけど。
I'm okay. This was enough for her to lose consciousness or concentration. The only problem was that she didn't get to enjoy the floaty, languid feeling alcohol gave. Hisako hadn't enjoyed a good night out drinking for a while. She was so busy she had to refuse invites from her old friends, and often ended up having to go to gatherings she didn't enjoy. God, so relatable. What kind of life was this? She chuckled to herself at the thought, but then pushed it aside. It was a dangerous thought to have when drunk.
あんま時間ない。
I don't have much time. Shinjuku Station was like a maze. Making the last train would be a challenge. If she didn't make it in time, she'd have to stay in the station. Hisako had tough nerves, but even she was averse to the idea of sleeping drunk in the station.
急がないと。
I gotta hurry. She remembered that there were lots of urban legends surrounding Shinjuku Station. There could be something inhuman among the passerby. There could be a cenotaph under the Chuo line. There could be routes that took you somewhere you couldn't return from. Drunk as she was, she could maybe see one or two things she couldn't see normally.
見たいな。
I love to see something. However, she passed the ticket barrier, passed the platform, and got on the final train without encountering anything.
疲れた。
So tired. With all the desk work she had to do, unless she was doing interviews, she could hardly go outside. And this time was taken up by the meetings with editors from her magazine company, participation in the press conference, and the drinking party. Even between all that, she'd taken out her mini laptop, made some drafts for the stricter deadlines, and made a few calls. It was a productive day, even by her standards, but she'd have to spend all of tomorrow locked up in her room again.
容量悪いのかな。
I'm not sure if I'm going about this right. No matter how much she worked, her life didn't become any easier. It was a common problem, but it was also true that many such people often wasted their money on momentary pleasures such as alcohol or girls. Yeah. She considered that maybe her payments would actually increase as she stopped considering her future and just lived as she wanted. Being on the verge of 30 made her somewhat uneasy. She casually opened her phone and found out that she had over a dozen calls for each day. The job was so hard, yet the pay was so low.
文章って安いわよね。
Text is so cheap. She understood that there had to be a my before that, but she couldn't stop herself from complaining. If she couldn't gain money, she wanted to at least have an experience that you couldn't buy with money. In that sense, the incident in Fujiyoshi, where she was attacked by locals wearing wolf clothing, was quite special. However, it was dangerous and she didn't earn any money for it, so it was a loss overall. Incidentally, that was the first time she'd encountered someone who claimed to be a fan of her work. Haruaki Fusaishi. Due to the danger he put her through, she wanted to know more about what happened there. They were still in touch via email, and she often tried to drag him in for an interview, but he always put it off, saying something about deadlines. He claimed to be a college or grad student. Was he, studying a very difficult subject? Should have been summer break right now, so he should have had time, but it was now Hisako's turn to be busy. The circumstances weren't favorable, though she'd have some time after she'd crossed this mountain, so she had to plan her next job, whether or not it involved Haruaki.
次はどこ行こうかな。もっと変わった田舎でネタと不思議がありそうな。
Where should I go next? I imagine weird countryside places would have some good stories for me. Hisako was always a curious person. She was born in Shikoku and often interacted with stories of the 88 temples, Gyobu Tanuki, and other mythical cultural aspects. She'd taken up folkloristics in a college near her home. It was very interesting. She could study with passion. However, she never had the mythical encounter she'd always hoped for. She then went on to investigate urban legends and modern paranormal encounters. She even moved to Tokyo because she wanted to unravel the darkness of the city. She then got a job with a small magazine and was put in charge of the occult column, but it didn't do well and went out of business in less than a year. Hisako even felt that the sudden state of unemployment was the most paranormal moment in her life. She couldn't decide where to work next, was writing articles as if it were a part-time job, and eventually ended up freelancing. She was happy that she could feed herself, but she realized that this wouldn't keep going forever. Perhaps getting married would make her future more stable.
でも相手がいないのよね。
But I have no one. The people in the publishing and magazine companies were either other women or had families, while her old friends from her homeland were already getting married. Oh, life is tough for her. She wasn't really interested in the other journalists, especially after that drinking party.
橋本さんが未婚者ならな。
If only Hashimoto-san wasn't married. Aw, damn. She's into Hashimoto enough? If only. Yudai Hashimoto, the cameraman she briefly worked with, was someone she greatly respected. He was a man of character, skill, and always looked at things with the eyes of a professional. The little consolation after party they had after the Fujiyoshi trip was actually the first time in a while she'd enjoyed drinking with someone. She was so drunk she even aired her complaints about the other journalists. He responded with a flat expression.
それは、Q ちゃんが頭が良くて、容識家だから言えることだね。
I believe that that's because you are smart and have a conscience.
僕は思うんだけど、世の中の6割とか7割の人は、良し悪しや物事の是非をあんまり考えずに生きてるんだよ。
If you ask me, I believe that about 60 to 70% of people live without thinking whether something is right or wrong.
そういった人たちが社会を乱さずに暮らしていくために正義なんてものが必要なんだ。わかりやすいやつがね。
Such people need justice to live without causing problems to society. The obvious ones, at least.
ジャーナリストも同じだよ。正義という錦の御旗は必ずしも自己満足や建前のために掲げているわけじゃない。
Same applies to journalism. The flag of justice isn't always waved for self-satisfaction or pretense.
正義であることをやめた途端、際限なく悪どいことをしてしまう連中はこの世界にも山ほどいるんだよ。
World is full of people who are willing to do terrible things the moment they give up on being just.
だからそういうのは必要だと僕は思う。空々しく聞こえることもよくあるけどね。君が言ったのと同じように。
That's why I believe it's necessary, even if, as you said, it often sounds hypocritical. Even if some ideals seemed empty, losing them could bring about an endless hell. Hisako didn't know if that was Yudai's own take, or if he was just playing along with her subculture-like idea. But she did feel that he was right.
あの人くらい懐が広くて見識があってダンディーなおじさまがどっかにいないかな。
I wonder if there's another man as tolerant, considerate, and gentlemanly as him. Though she'd have liked someone less horizontally challenged. Damn! Damn! A little nicer. Hi. Should have liked someone less horizontally challenged. That's a one way of putting it. She didn't mind fatter or slimmer people, but someone on Yudai's level was bound to cause physical trouble. In various situations. God damn. Come on, man. Oh, the face. Oh. When she was little, Hisako was a daddy's girl, and so far, all the men she dated were older than her. She was entirely aware of her own Electra complex, and that it might have warped her eye for men. Man. What am I thinking? The inside of the train was almost completely silent. There were some other people in the car, but they were all sleeping on the seats. Many of them were as drunk as she was. I don't know. I get it. People are allowed to have preferences. I'm not, for whatever reason. Almost for whatever reason. You know. But man, I was like, wow, that's really cool of her to be like, oh, if only he wasn't married and he's so gentlemanly and smart and cool and all. But fuck, man. Like, I was just like, she could have just not said that. She wouldn't have lost her points. There were some other people in the car, but they were all sleeping on the seats. Many of them were as drunk as she was. She herself was half asleep too. Whenever she closed her eyes, her thoughts became a mess, and she almost leaked saliva from her mouth. But I'm not completely asleep. It was a strange sensation. She was certain that she wasn't having a dream, but was somewhere between waking and sleep. Perhaps this feeling itself had been given by a dream. A drunk person's senses had no stability or certainty. She couldn't sense the passage of time. She couldn't hear anything. She couldn't feel the shaking of the train. Drowsy as she was, she did notice how the train stopped and a female passenger got off into the darkness outside. Hisako's house was in Kawagoe. Kawagoe? It was a 50-minute train ride away from Shinjuku, then 10 minutes on foot. She wouldn't know how to respond if someone asked her whether it was a good spot. There were far more potato fields and residences here, so it was pretty dark out due to lack of streetlights. The place Hisako was renting was at the edge of such an area. The only reason she took it was the cheap rent and the fact that the arena reminded her of her homeland. Area, not arena. Reminded her of her homeland. The dark night road was nearly empty. Of course, she never encountered anything paranormal on this path.
いるとすれば痴漢くらいか。
All you have here are perverts. The number of them had increased recently, and there were many signs warning about them. Apparently, they were the types who exposed themselves to women, but as long as they weren't violent, they weren't a problem for Hisako.
うぶなねんねじゃあるまいしね。
I'm not a little girl anymore. That thought made her realize that she was aging, which only made her more depressed. The fact that the most unusual things she could encounter after moving to the city were just some perverts made her feel really strange. She noticed someone walking in front of her. You could see lots of people walking out at night in the heart of the city, but that was pretty rare here. Rare enough for it to be unusual.
まさか。
Is that a pervert? She felt that she just imagined one into reality. No one else was here, and it looked like a man. It was easy to see him as suspicious. Normally, she'd have been made more alert and have a good sense to switch to the other side of the road. However, she was more drunk than she'd realized.
なんかネタになるかな。
Maybe I can make an article out of this. A pervert's diet, garlic's effectiveness in fending off perverts. Thinking of those and other, more indecent headlines, she took out her notepad. She was actually planning to interview the pervert. Hisako walked up to and looked at him. He had luggage with him. Was he planning to pull something out? He wasn't wearing a coat. The man was wearing normal, summertime clothing, and he was somewhat familiar. Ah!
あれまさか
Huh? No way. That was her line.
ライターの間宮さんですかどうしてこんな
You're a
ところに
pervert? Mamiya-san, the writer? Why are you here? That was her line too.
織部安永くん？
Yasunaga Oribe-kun?
はい
Yes. She suddenly remembered the call. She'd been contacted by Kaori Oribe, the woman in charge of the dining hall in Yasumisu, and someone she'd wanted to interview in May. The lady called to ask for something. Her son had come to Tokyo to visit colleges, but neither she nor him knew any good destinations, so she wondered if Hisako could help with that. This is an interesting pairing. We didn't really get this kind of pairing in the main story that much, really, at all. When she was interviewing Kaori about this Shishinere, Hisako had mentioned that she was studying folkloristics before. Apparently, her son had become interested in that recently. College students who knew what they wanted to learn before they even enrolled were rare, so any seminars would welcome passionate and skilled volunteers. This afternoon, they talked on the phone about it, agreeing on a new time. She was so busy that she'd missed most of the details, but Hisako was certain that she'd been told that the boy had already arrived in Tokyo. Her address wasn't on the business card she'd given them, and looking at his reaction, this meeting was surely just a coincidence.
この辺に泊まってるの？
Huh? You're staying nearby?
そのつもりでした
That was the plan.
こんな便利でもなんでもない片田舎にピンポイントで宿取ったの？
What? You took a place in such an inconvenient, half-rural area? She could understand if it was closer to the metropolitan area. There were colleges there. Anyway, she didn't know of any local places where one could properly stay.
いえ匠兄のうちの知り合いの家族の出稼ぎ先がこの辺にあるんで頼ってきたんですが
Well, Takumini's, my acquaintance's family go out to work in this area, so I asked them to take me in. Hisako could understand that. Local rent prices were low, and there was a lot of industry and agriculture here.
なるほどね。すっごい偶然。で、夜のお散歩中ってわけ？
I see. What a coincidence. But why are you walking around at night?
いえそもそもたどり着けなくて
I just can't get there.
え？
Huh?
いくら住所を確認してもつかないからもう諦めて適当にうろついていようと思って
I checked a few places, but I couldn't get there, so I gave up and decided to just wander around.
一晩中？
The whole night?
ええ
Yes.
いやいやいやいやいや。
Whoa, hold on. What kind of thinking was that? He seemed like an intelligent sort back in Yasumisu. Was that a misunderstanding?
大学行く前日に徹夜する気？当日ヘロヘロになっちゃうわよ。
You're planning to pull an all-nighter right before going to college? You'll barely be alive.
行きのバスで眠れたので大丈夫です それに徹夜は結構得意なんで。
I got some sleep on the bus here. I'm pretty good at pulling all-nighters.
余震ばそうでもどこか腰を落ち着ける場所は必要でしょ。
But you need a place where you can relax, right?
理想としては、ええ。
Ideally, yes.
電車はもうないか。タクシーは走ってないけども、なんかこうさ。
You won't see trains or taxis this late. Hey.
そうもっと早い段階で手を打つとかできたでしょう。市街なら素泊まりでもいくつでも宿があったでしょうに。
Sorry, I hit the mic trying to manually mute myself before I sneezed. There. I couldn't get it in time for the first sneeze. Couldn't you have secured something earlier? You're in the city. You can easily find a place to stay.
いえ、そもそもお金がないんです。
I don't have the money.
それなら深夜カラオケとかビデオ屋とか。いや、高校生は使えないか。じゃあファミレスで粘るとか。
Then you have late night karaoke's, video stores. Wait, you're too young for those. A diner?
明日から3日かけて大学を回るんですが、最低限の電車賃と外で食べるためのお金しか持ってきてないんですよ。
I'll walk around some colleges for 3 days starting tomorrow, but all I have is the money for train and food.
その食費っていくらくらい？
How much are we talking?
500円あります。
I have 500 yen? Was this a field trip to him?
基本的には食事も全部匠兄の実家を頼るつもりだったんで、まあでもパンとかなら100円で買えますし、なんとか。
I'd intended to eat at Takumi's parents' place, but I can get bread for 100 yen. I'll get by.
なってない。第一今日徹夜しても明日は無理でしょ。そんな予算じゃ宿も取れないし。
No, you won't. And even if you can handle one all-nighter, you won't have another one. You don't have the money to get a place.
そうですね。自由時間を使って寝られそうな場所を探すしかないかも。公園とか橋の下とか。
That's true. I have to use my free time to search for a place to sleep, like in a park or under a bridge. He was severely lacking in street smarts.
あのね、いくら予定の決まった大学訪問だって言っても、ちょっと計画がタイトすぎるわよ。
Listen, I know you're here for on a planned college tour, but your planning leaves no room for failure.
特に社会では何をするにもお金がかかるんだから、予算にはもっと余裕を持って。
Especially monetarily, you need money to get by, so have some on you at all times.
いや、うちって本当に貧乏で。
Well, we're really poor. Hisako didn't know what to say. She could tell that the settlement was special in that regard. Even bringing one person to Tokyo was a great expense on their part.
ちなみに私が紹介する大学っていつ行くつもりだったの？
When did you intend to visit the college I would introduce you to?
え？紹介？
What? Introduce?
あら？話伝わってない？あなたのお母さんから今日の昼に電話があったわよ。
Huh? You weren't told? Your mother called me around noon today.
私の通ってた民族学の研究室を紹介できないかって要件で。多分できるけどちょっと確認時間欲しいなって。
She asked if I could introduce you to folkloristic seminars, and I said I could, but needed some time.
民族学？間宮さんって民族学を専攻されてたんです。
Folkloristics? Was that your subject?
ええ。ああ、織部香織さんには世間話で言ってたんだけどね。
Yes. I told that to Kaori Ribe-san when we chatted.
母さん、余計なことを。
Mom, you really didn't have to.
どういうこと？
What?
いえ、僕が一人で外に出るのが初めてだからって心配していろいろ取り乱しているみたいでして。
Well, this is my first time outside of my own, so she was really worried.
実は法学系だけじゃなくて、そういう人文系の学部も回りたいと思ってるんです。
I'm actually thinking of exploring both law departments as well as humanities subjects along those lines.
考古学とか文化人類学とか？
Like archaeology and cultural anthropology?
ええ。最近ちょっと興味が出てて。
Yes, I've been interested in that recently.
それを母に言ったら、やたらと それはいい。ぜひやりなさい。と乗り気だったんで、多分その流れだと思います。
When I told that to Mom, she was completely for it, and that's what led it to it.
間宮さんのそのお話を思い出して、良かれと思ってやったんだと思います。なんだかすみません。
She must have called you after remembering your conversation with her. Sorry.
いやいや、それはいいんだけど。
Hey, it's no trouble, really.
でも、すでにこっちに出てきてる君と私をどう合流させるつもりだったのかしら。
But how did she intend to help us meet if you're already here?
母はちょっと考えなしなところがありまして。
She doesn't think things through sometimes. A true parent-child relationship. Everything made sense to her now, but she didn't say it.
とにかく、ダメよ一晩ふらつき回るなんて。この辺痴漢が出るんだから、下手すりゃ間違われて通報されるわよ。
Anyway, wandering around at night is a no-no. There are perverts in this area. They might think you're one and report you.
まさかそんな。
What? Would that really happen?
街舐めちゃダメよ。しょうがないな。
Don't underestimate the city. I guess I have no choice.
うち来なさい。
Come to my place. Huh?
汚いけど、その辺で寝るよりはマシだから。ほらこっち。
It's messy, but it's better than sleeping outside. Come on, it's right here.
いや、悪いですよ。
But I can't.
このままふらつかれる方が悪い。いいから来なさい。
You also can't stay outside. Just come with me.
間宮さん、酔ってます？
Mamiya-san, are you drunk?
酔ってない。
I'm not.
酔ってますって。
You are. She was. But even if she wasn't, she would have surely done the same thing. She was optimistic and proactive. She would act before she had a chance to be embarrassed about it and worry about it later. That was what the freelance writer, Kyoko House was like at the core.
まあ考えてみれば運が良かったわ。ここで巡り会えて。会えなかったらね、あなたも困ったでしょうし。
Well, aren't you lucky? Imagine how troubled you'd be if we didn't run into each other.
今まさに困ってます。
I'm not troubled right now.
何が困ってるのかな？
And why?
僕、トイレかどこかに入ってますね。
I'll go to the bathroom or something.
それダメ、マジダメ。ざっと掃除するから。そのためにはまずこのタイトなを外さなきゃっと。
No, don't. Let me clean up first. Before that, I gotta take this tight off there.
見えない、見てない。
I'm not looking. I'm not. Hisako could remember fooling around like that, but then it all went blank. She woke up with sunlight in her eyes. Her head felt heavy. It wasn't bad enough to be a hangover, but it wasn't pleasant. She was wearing her indoor clothes, and there were other clothes and other things littered all about, but she didn't mind it. Where was he? She looked around her 12 to Tommy-sized room and found a note on the small table next to the wall. Sorry, I was like choking there. It was a message written in steady handwriting. It's time, so I'm leaving now. Thank you for the phone. I'll figure out how to use it and contact you when I have free time. Thank you so much for looking after me, too. Also, I didn't see anything yesterday. Honest. Yasunaga Oribe. She remembered that she lended him one of her personal phones. She had several, some for work, some for herself. He'd probably never used one before, but she was sure he would get by. It wasn't hard to begin with, and had numbers on her, and it had numbers of her other phones, so there would be no problems as long as he figured them out. Though, he was the type to spend the night outside if he couldn't find a place, so he could easily make some strange misunderstandings. What if he tried to put money in it or forget to charge it?
バカにしすぎかな。
He's not that stupid. Hisako figured that it would all work out.
よし、動こう。
Alright, time for work. She fired herself up and stood up. She had even more work than before, after all. They'd agreed that he'd come back once he was done for the day. No matter what he did here, he couldn't get far without money. She would clean up the place before he returned. In the end, Hisako couldn't clean up the bathroom or bath last night, and she could only hope he didn't see them. Also, when looking at it realistically, she didn't find a reason to give him money to stay and eat at a hotel or something. She had no obligation to do that, and if she gave him too much money, he'd probably be so humble that it would be painful for her. She already had him stay over once. Another day wouldn't hurt. He was a man, sure, but he was like a dozen years younger than her, If he was the sort to make some sort of mistake, he would have surely made it last night. Was it a good idea to call his mother as proof that there was nothing special happening here? She figured she would do it when he was around. If he would stay over again, she figured she had to prepare food for him. What, though? Curry? Steak? Fried food? A 17-year-old had to be gluttonous, so the food had to be something substantial. Or maybe something weird yet extremely delicious. It was time for her to show off her knowledge as a critic of strange foods. Hisako would leave the boy awestruck with her excessive knowledge of ingredients and cooking methods. That meant that this was basically part of her job. Nothing personal. It would surely take more time and effort than just ordering something, but this was a matter of initiative. With that decided, she had to open up her afternoon for shopping, washing, and utensil preparation. Hisako had 3 articles to write today. It was 9 right now. She'd overslept. 3 articles in 3 hours? Is that a joke? However, instead of giving up then and there, she removed the makeup that had been on her since yesterday and faced her desk without even changing into something. She felt like she could do it.
なんとかなったし。
It worked out. After breaking her speed record writing up the 3 articles, she faxed and mailed them to the clients. 1 was signed off on instantly, while 2 needed some minor changes, which she'd done in no time. She wrote those out really fast, but that didn't damage the quality. In fact, 1 company even praised her. The text has more oomph to it. Did something good happen? Good. Hisako herself was well aware that she was having fun right now.
誰かのためにご飯作るなんて何年ぶりかな。
Well, it's been years since I made food for someone else. She'd shown her skill at the drinking party she'd had with the girls in her college years, and she treated her previous partners to handmade food. But once she became employed, she no longer had time for any of that. She might have been more desperate for human contact than she realized.
にしても飯炊き効果で原稿速度が通常の3倍ってどんな体調気しようよ。
But to work 3 times faster because of some rice, what kind of machine does that?
いや
Or-
これはむしろ日頃どれだけたるんでいたかってこと。こりゃお給金が上がらなくても当然だわ。
Or does that say more about how lazy I was at the time, all this time? Of course I wouldn't make more money like that. Did that mean that all her problems would be solved if she got married and made food for her hubby every day? That realization made her jump to her feet, then sigh. She had no good person for that role after all.
ま、いっか。
Oh well. With that, she now had half a day off, so she began cleaning and thinking of the menu. Come 2 o'clock, she put her makeup on and left. As she locked the door, the keys shone under the sun within the clear sky. The weather was nice. Yasunaga hadn't contacted her yet. Could have been simply that he was busy or because he actually didn't know how to use the phone. Even so, he should have been able to come back without a problem. A mountain child's sense of direction had to be good, surely. Thinking that, Hisako went to the station. She passed a small station that echoed the announcements and entered an old-looking car of a dull silver color. It wasn't the morning or evening rush hour, so there were few people both in the train and on the platform. She casually sat down and rested. Since she needed both rare ingredients and kitchen utensils, she decided to go to a supermarket in the inner city. Hisako even made a note of what to get. If she finished within an hour, she was bound to return before the rush. She'd spend the next 40 minutes doing nothing.
いつもこんな感じだったらいいのにな。
If only it was always like this. She would have loved to live her life spending half of her days working and half doing household activities. She enjoyed them. And she would have loved to have a gentle, reliable older man at her side to spend such days with. I don't know where this story is going, but I don't know if I like it. She remembered the faces of her previous partners. One was a senpai in her college club, one was a young employee in a gastropub where she'd been a part-timer, and one was a senpai in her study-up department. Yeah, the reason for breaking up was always the same. The man became bored of her. She could understand why. She wasn't the type of person a man would look for in a younger woman. She wasn't cute, was crude, had stern eyes, and was subculture focused. I mean, that's exactly my type. Dating her for a while was enjoyable, but a lifetime of her was too much. It was like her current job trying out delicacies. She knew that she'd messed up when picking her preferred kind of man. She would have preferred she probably fared better. Gonna say that again. She would have probably fared better with someone the same age or younger. But wasn't it too late to struggle on that front?
まずいな。楽しいことやってるのに気が散ってきた。
Oh no, I'm having so much fun that my mind's going where it shouldn't. Hisako decided to sleep for a bit. She'd been so energetic this morning that it was coming back to bite her. Could have been the alcohol too, so she figured she had to rest a bit. And if she slept, she would have had to think about the ghosts of the past. So far, she hadn't seen a single one of her ex-boyfriends in her dreams, and she wondered what it said about her. Thinking such familiar things, she closed her eyes.
おかしいな。出ないぞ。
Strange. She's not answering. Surrounded by other visitors, Yasunaga was standing in the campus of one of the colleges he was visiting. He went through 2 colleges and probably participated in a total of 4 relevant events, such as open campus and simulated enrollment. It was rare for Yasunaga's own plans to fail. In that sense, this one was particularly troublesome. The fact that he couldn't get to Takumi Muro's family's home was one such failure. Couldn't find the residence he was told about no matter how hard he looked. One moment he thought he was walking around, only to come out on a completely unfamiliar path. He asked the locals for directions, but no matter how well he followed them, he'd just gotten more and more lost. He'd failed to find any public phones, so he couldn't even call to ask for someone's help. When it became dark, he'd given up on trying to get there and arrived at the road he'd walked by in the morning. He couldn't understand what was up. Was it because the town was unfamiliar to him? Was that really it? It wasn't a coincidence. There was intent behind this.
あれからなんかこういう感覚を受ける機会が増えた気がする。
I feel like I've had these sensations way more often since that time. That time was a strange incident in which God appeared in Yasumisu. Even now, he couldn't help but believe that it was all done by human hands. After all, there was no God in this world who would send the poor residents of Yasumisu on a trip to Atami. There were many mysteries, such as the wolf guy's suicide, or the collapse of the head families, but it was clear that there was some sort of conspiracy, and going on the trip had protected them from its effects. They'd been saved by the clearly human, yet godlike person. I forgot about this picture. I forgot about the CG. Yeah. Oh, good times. When they'd come back, everyone in Kamifujiyoshi was shocked. There'd been a mist, yet everyone was okay. Not only that, but they came back on a limousine bus. Whatever had happened there, life in Fujiyoshi had become easier since then. He could vaguely feel that their encounter with God was related to the fall of the village heads and was a turning point for everyone there. The difference in school life was most striking. The students related to the village heads had somehow vanished, and some had become friendlier with them.
霧は大丈夫だったのかとか、何かを見たのかとか、いろいろ聞かれたのは参ったけど。
I didn't know how to respond when they asked me about the mist and what I saw there. He always fell silent when asked, when Shikamochi joked around and Haru calmly dismissed everyone. But it wasn't just the people that had changed. He could feel something else. The thing that had been oppressing them had vanished, and there was now someone else who watched over them instead. He could feel it even now. Oh. Accidentally hit the button again. How do I... You could feel it even now when he was far away from Fujiyoshi. It wasn't unpleasant. It felt like he could keep calm and live with confidence.
だからって迷うのは困るけど。
Getting lost is still a problem, though.
あるいはワイルドにその辺に寝ろとか。昨日の夜は僕もちょっとどうかしてたかもな。
Or maybe I could just go wild and sleep outside. I feel like I wasn't really myself last night. Was the mountain god telling him to give up on the exams and return? Haru had sent him off with a smile, so he really didn't think that was the case. She even sewn him a charm to keep him safe along the way and help him succeed in his studies. It was still in his bag, and he felt it would bring him luck.
あるいはもしかして間宮さんと引き合わせてくれたのかな。
Maybe it's what helped me run into Mamiya-san. It was the fact that he couldn't have bumped into her if he hadn't been wandering outside that late. Hisako Mamiya-san. She was an outsider to the isolated settlement of Yasumisu, and the first impression she gave off was that of a refined city lady. It was hard to become like her by just reading textbooks. Shemi Serizawa had gone to college in the city and also returned so refined that he could hardly recognize her. As one who had feelings for her, he found it both charming and unfortunate. After all, he'd fallen for the animalistic Shemi he'd known since childhood. Even if that was still there, the people, especially the men she'd met outside, had slowly changed her. By the way, when they'd returned from the Tommy trip and she'd returned to college, she'd laughed and said she would go meet God. She probably knew that God, and that smile would only mean that she...
やめやめ。未練がましいぞ。
Hold it. Stop. It's time to give up. Shemi had left Yasumisu and become free. Even if she was far away from him and it made him feel lonely, it was something to be glad about. He had to follow in her footsteps and become free himself. Switching gears. Oh, that's called character growth. Switching gears, Yasunaga took out the phone again and called the address. Me, deadlines, and me, connections. It just continued to ring and no one picked up. Was she asleep? It was already afternoon. Evening wasn't too far off. The rush in the morning had been awful. He could get out somewhere, or he could get out somehow. But the whole place would be packed again, and it was time to return. He knew where he had to get off, but he wanted to avoid missing a stop and being unable to pay for travel again. He had to prioritize contacting Hisako. Upon deciding that, Yasunaga began killing time.
行ってみたいところもあるしな。
I have somewhere I want to go after all.
広いな。
It's so huge! After walking around for about 20 minutes, Yasunaga entered a college library. The old wooden interior was lined with countless bookshelves. Besides the sound of the visitors turning pages, the place was completely quiet. According to the documents, this was the largest assortment of books in the area. Apparently, only school employees and students could borrow books, but everyone could hang around and read, so it was a perfect place to kill time. You could also use one of the dozens of computers to search for the right book or just find out more. Yasunaga knew TVs, but he never touched a computer. He figured he would need it in the future, though, so he certainly wanted to touch them. Also, a book from the hands-on learning experience left him intrigued, so he wanted to know more. It was a textbook about ruin excavation.
びっくりするぐらい高いものらしいから、こういうところで読むのが一番なんだろうな。
It's surprisingly expensive, so it's best to just read it in a place like this. Before, he'd wanted to become a lawyer to earn lots of money for his mother, but he'd been changing recently. His mother, Kaori Ribe, and Takumi Muro had begun to seriously consider getting married. She'd probably start to enjoy living Yasumisu a lot more than before. Thus, she insisted that Yasunaga and his brother do whatever they wanted. About a month ago, Kinosuke Nosato, who'd left Fujiyoshi, had sent Yasunaga a sealed envelope. Inside, there was a letter and a photo of God's mask. He wrote that he had the thing with him, but if Yasumisu wanted to prepare a proper place for it, he would return it to them. The Nosato document said that a certain someone had dug it up from Yasumisu. Kinosuke had no affinity for this kind of thing himself, but if Yasunaga was interested, he would contact his family and have them help him. Yasunaga had been captivated by the possibilities the letter provided, as well as the shape of the mysterious mask displayed in the photo. He knew that studies were about looking for reasons and results. If there was a reason, there was a result. So by knowing the reason, you can know the result, and by analyzing the result, you could arrive at the reason. As results and reasons switched places, things that had and didn't have a shape would switch places and create unexpected value. Yasunaga found this extremely interesting. That was why he enjoyed learning and why results followed him. Through the mock exams, he'd found out that he could easily be top of his class in college. The path of a lawyer was open to him. However, he was enchanted by the wolf mask. He wanted to know who made it and why, and the reasons why it had so many similarities to the Mountain Festival wolf costumes and face clothes. What methods would be involved in finding that out? Such questions made him extremely excited. This reminded him that Hisako had said she would recommend him to folkloristic seminars. If he chose to go there, Hisako would become his senpai. He had a few more questions about it, so he would stay at her place again. He wasn't sure if she would allow that, but he wanted to talk. Last night, she'd fallen asleep in an indecent position. Ooh. And he couldn't even ask her anything. He remembered how she turned around and...
ダメだっての!
Stop it! He shook the memory off. It was best to act like he hadn't seen anything. No, don't throw away the memory! Lean into it! Yasunaga was quite perplexed by the difference between her usual self and her when she was drunk.
間宮さん、いくつなんだろう?
It's going there. How old is she? She did seem older than him, but still far from old. As he thought such things, he realized something. He might have a thing for unprincipled older ladies. Okay, I had to take a sip of water after that.
やめよう。最低だ。
No, that's just the worst. He failed to get Chiemi, so he'd go for Hisako? That'd be too simple, straightforward, and hasty. Instead, the rebound! Instead, he focused on the library. He tried calling her on the phone again, but the result was the same. Yasunaga sighed, put the phone away, and entered the library. She regained consciousness, but couldn't properly process reality yet. On the surface, it looked like everything was normal. She couldn't realize that there was no conformity in her awareness and that something was really off. It was night. Outside the train car was pure darkness, and the lights inside only seemed to emphasize it. Hisako Mamiya instantly assumed that she was riding on a late-night train, returning from work that tired her so much she'd fallen asleep on the ride. She clung to that story for a few seconds, but as her thoughts became more clear, she became more pale. Had she slept too long? Had she been sleeping here for a whole few hours? What happened to Yasunaga Uribe? She abandoned the boy who needed her help. What a horrible thing to do. Hisako quickly dug into her bag. The two phones she had both said it was 4 minutes past midnight and that there were no missed calls or texts. Not only that, but both of them had said that they were out of service range. Out of range? On a train line? She then realized another thing. This wasn't a loop line. If she'd overslept, she would have been awakened and kicked out. Even if that didn't happen, she would have been caught up in the rush. No way she could have kept sleeping then. In that case, what was happening here? She naturally assumed the reverse, i.e. that her meeting with Yasunaga was just a dream. She'd gotten drunk, got on the last train, and that was when reality ended. She began having a dream where she met Yasunaga Uribe and let him stay over. That wouldn't explain everything. She didn't have her personal phone with her. Unless she dropped it somewhere, she'd lended it to Yasunaga. Then there was a shopping list she'd made. It was hard to argue that she'd made it while sleeping. She definitely got on a daytime train and had somehow arrived here. A train with no one else but her. Something wasn't right. Hisako finally realized that she was in an unnatural situation. Basically, something paranormal. Unlike a certain swindling author, when faced with the paranormal, normal people felt only fear. Finally happened, huh? She licked her lips. Hisako had been dreaming of seeing something paranormal her whole life. Even though she knew by now that there were always just people behind the curtain, she'd still chase the darkness. And this time, she'd finally gotten what she wanted. She'd been waiting for this for long, and she was ready. She prepared and put up a front. It was time for her to show off her skills as an ex-occult writer. She stood up. Her car was the fourth, the same as she'd gotten on. It looked like a normal train if you ignored that there were no other passengers. Hisako moved through the car and opened a door. There was a soft curtain wriggling at the connection, and it seemed to visualize the loud but organized sounds of vibrations. She's inside one of those recent popular games, the spot the anomaly games, like Exit 8 or the million of copycat games that came out after that. Spot the anomaly. Hisako. Mamiya, write, occult writer, write about the anomalies. The train was still running. To the third car. All was the same. To the second car. Oh, it's an anomaly! All was the same. All was the same. The train was still running. To the first car. What do you mean all was the same? All was the same. Get tetanus by touching that. All was the same. The train was still running. All was the same. All was the same. All was the same. The first car was the front. Hisako covered her mouth. Even though she hadn't eaten much since morning, she was hungry. In fact, she felt an intense urge to vomit. As she went onward, she became aware that there was some sort of an anomaly. Oh, I called it. That affected the nervous system. Her thoughts became dull, and her paralyzed sense of danger made her unable to realize it. Her physical condition was just getting worse and worse. Urge to vomit, headache. She finally realized that something was even more wrong than she'd thought. Lack of oxygen? Odorless gas? The journalist who looked into cases of carbon-based suicide had told her that carbon monoxide poisoning made people fall asleep and just die. This is bad. There had to be someone at the front. The train wouldn't be moving otherwise. Hoping for help, Hisako staggered over her head. She felt like she couldn't fall at the slightest curve. She could fall at the slightest curve. How long would this train keep going forward? Upon arriving at the front, she looked through the window into the conductor's seat. There was no one there. Or rather, she couldn't perceive it. The part of the scenery through the window where the driver should be seemed to be cut out. She couldn't see it as if she was actually blind to just that part. Though, didn't look like there was something there. It was probably worse. That place itself just didn't exist. Basically, it was a space that rejected the laws of the physical world, something fatal for human perception. She quickly looked away, her vision returned, but The car wasn't the same as before. It looked like it had been left underwater for half a century. There was rust, tears, and rot everywhere. The doors were dirty, seats were torn, the walls had eroded, and the windows were covered in dirt. However, none of that could compare to the advertisements hanging here and there. After all, they weren't in Japanese. It wasn't the alphabet or Hangul either, nor was it Hebrew or Arabic either. Text seemed like warped, heretical, evil hieroglyphs that couldn't have been created by a human hand. It made her realize that she'd been seeing them for a while, but only found them suspicious now.
Yeah.
No. No. Come on, why is she freaking out? She said she wanted something like this, right? Hisco's courage was quickly overwhelmed by fear and panic. Those who only knew wild beasts from zoos didn't know the fear of being inside those cages. The fear filling her throat and crawling up her skin was just too great to resist. However, she could overcome it just enough to create a goal for herself: escape. She had to get out. With only that thought in mind, she closed in on the nearby door. Above her, there was a rusty metallic cover hiding an emergency lever. The instructions on it were written in the same cryptic hieroglyphs, so she looked away. For a moment, she almost felt like they extended like tentacles and wrapped around her fingers. She forcefully opened the cover, moaning because of the tearing pain in her hand, and pulled the rusty lever. There was an alarm. She knew it was because of what she did, but she felt like it was a scream of the train-shaped yokai. With a high-pitched, wet, annoying, lowly, belittling, insulting sound, the train began to slow down. I'm not gonna try to read that. A train broadcast? It was a male voice. It sounded somewhat monotone and sleepy, just like the train. She couldn't understand a word of what it said. Unable to bear it, she finally vomited, but even then, she didn't let go of the emergency lever. Her fist turned pale from how hard she held it. Hurry. Hurry up and stop. Hoping for just that, she directed her cloudy eyes into the darkness outside, where she saw a white, square, luminous object. It was a station name. A station name in the Japanese language. It was there for just a moment, but she read it. The next moment, the train shook. I was not ready for my controller to vibrate there. The next moment, it vibrated really hard. The next moment, the train shook. Hisco almost fell and the train stopped. The door opened up. Upon realizing that, she noticed that the other train cars were as clean as she remembered. But she couldn't trust her senses anymore. Breathing raggedly, she made her way outside. The voice from before followed her. Emergency stop at Kisaragi Station. That was close. She couldn't see the outside well, but she realized that only a small part of the first car was next to the platform. If she'd walked out from any other car, she would have fallen on the tracks. Feeling hard concrete on her knees, she tried to stabilize her breathing, which was when her surroundings became dark. Huh? The bright lights from the train had vanished. She turned around and saw the train lying there like the corpse of a large beast with its jaws hanging open. Oh no, train yokai. It still made some mechanical sounds, but she felt like it would fall completely silent soon, like a cadaver. She didn't know why the train had to shut down right after an emergency stop. She didn't even know if there was a reason. Once her breathing stabilized, she stood up. There was no light sources anywhere. She'd concluded this was a platform because of the sign she'd seen from inside. Ignoring that, this was just a concrete ramp. Even empty stations had night lights. What was this place? Where am I? She already had info, however. The station's name was Kisaragi, and it was in hiragana. It fit the Japanese announcement she heard. Kisaragi wasn't a station she knew. It still didn't look like a proper train platform, but if it wasn't that, then what? I guess there's no point considering such things when it comes to the paranormal. I do just find it funny. She was hoping for like a paranormal like story. She's like, I need a story. And then like a thing is happening to her. Or she's just going fucking insane. But at the least, it's what she asked for. And then she's like, oh God. But she quickly remembered that there was no guarantee that this was supernatural. Looking back at all the phenomena so far, it was likely that this was just an illusion. This was some station late at night, and she was just incapable of acknowledging anyone else here. However, she had to act based on what her eyes told her. All the horror characters who thought they went insane were fated to die. She needed light, so she took out her phone. When she did so, something made her eye in her eyes. The battery was almost empty. How? It could last 2 days without charging and it was relatively new.
単純に無意識の間に時間がすっ飛んでしまったとかも考えたけど、違う。
It could be just that too much time passed, but no. She concluded upon looking at the other phone. It ran out of battery faster, but it somehow had made more than the other. Did I read that right? Less. But somehow had more than the other. I don't know where I added made. And both of them were out of service range. She thought she'd escape trouble when she left the train, but that idea was shallow. Maybe it would have been better to just stay on the fourth car?
いや、まだわからない。すでに難は逃れたけど、山奥の配線に放り出されたってパターンかも。
Or maybe I escaped the trouble, but ended up stuck in some abandoned line in the mountains? It was best to believe that something was wrong, but it was best to avoid extreme assumptions. She figured she had to look around a bit more. She took the phone with more battery left and lifted it up. The weak light illuminated the platform and a rusty fence. There was nothing but a dense hedge beyond it, and there was no way to tell what was further. She directed the light up. There was a roof, a really small one, like ones used in bus stops. It was also aged, but not as much as the train. There'd been a schedule on the support here, but it was torn off, apparently. She looked at the text and numbers that were still there. It was no doubt Japanese. Was this actually an abandoned station? She lit up the rails. It was a one-side platform, and beyond the rails there was nothing but a grassy cliff. Further in, there was a ticket booth in a small station-like building. She thought that she saw a dim light beyond it. As her eyes got used to the dark, she could finally differentiate between the dimly lit, cloudy sky, the lights in her hands, and the lights inside. There was something there. Station sign, perhaps? Hisako walked by the ticket gate and directed her light to the other side. Darkness, or rather, the outside was so vast that the backlight couldn't reach it. That meant she could leave. There were no workers at the ticket booth. It'd be too scary if there were. She shook her head, went forward, and looked inside the station building through the broken window. There was no one inside. There was a mess, but it didn't look like there was anything significant there. It looked like it had been abandoned after a thorough move. Nothing more, nothing less. All that was left now was finding out what that light was. She'd expected to find just a station sign, but what she actually found beyond the building surprised her. It was a vending machine. Coffee, fruit juice, sports drinks, green tea. For some reason, most were warm, and there were even brands she knew well. Hisako sighed in relief. Finally, she came across a piece of the civilization she knew. At the same time, she became hungry and thirsty, and the puking had given her a sore throat and stomach. Additionally, it was also summer. The air around her was warm, and the tension had made her sweat a lot. She wanted to drink some water. She took out 100 yen from the wallet in her bag and put it in the machine. She pressed on the button for the mineral water, and it fell to the tray. Hisako stuck her hand in and felt the cold of the bottle. It was a standard European hard water. She opened it and brought it to her mouth. At that moment, she wondered what had happened to her caution from before. Uh-oh. She didn't know what this place was. Could have been exactly like that train. There was no better time to question her senses than now. So why did she choose to drink something from here? She knew better than the usual person that eating the food from a different world was an expression of willingness to become a bride of that world and reject the old one. Oh shit. Before her throat could enjoy the water, she threw away the bottle and vomited again. With that, she was assaulted by a powerful dizziness and headache. Oh, Mamiya! She spat and tried to keep herself together. Then she looked at the vending machine. Oh no! It was no longer just that. It was a gathering of creeping vines on the stone wall. The leaves were all bigger than her arm, and she could see it clearly now, for it shone. It was a white closer to blue. It was a beautiful blue-hot flame casting a light you would only see in places like nuclear reactors. It brought about destructive energy that didn't allow life. It propagated and diffused and spread maliciously. The plant bore fruit. Hisako unhesitantly looked at the gel-like fruit, colored a malicious blue and filthy red. One of them was right next to her feet, and its fruit juice was spread out on the granite-like floor she was standing on. She just ingested the juice of a fruit from a plant that was not of her world. She spit it out, though. Or did she? The surroundings no longer tried to hide their evil nature. The building was exactly the same as before. However, The base material had become granite. It was covered in the same cryptic hieroglyphs she'd seen in the train, and it made her scream a little. The train was now all rusty and rotten, just like the interior of the first car was. It was like a metal ship that had washed ashore. It seemed to symbolize the defeat of the human mind, or the victory of the evil lurking here. No way! Struggling to keep her footing, she looked for proof that she wasn't going insane. However, that hope was shattered when she saw her phone screen. It showed only static, a field of unintelligible black and white. No. No, 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 no! Everything besides her was going insane. No, even her own things were like this. How could she make sense of this? She couldn't even look at a mirror now. Though panicking again, she couldn't throw away her phones. They were her only weapon after all. She worked the phone as best she could. She even tried to do something on the other, almost dead phone. She wanted it to connect to somebody. Anybody. Contact button, up and down buttons, call button. No luck. She couldn't connect no matter how hard she tried, but that didn't stop her. The small bit of rationality she had left told her it was pointless, but she repeated regardless, for she had nothing else.
寝すぎだろ、間宮さん。
Meanwhile, you're sleeping too long, Mamiya-san. He was calling Hisako every 20 minutes or so, but he had no luck with either of her phones. It was close to evening now, so it was best for him to return by himself. Certain she wouldn't answer, he called the Me Deadlines phone. Having no luck there, he then tried the Me Connections, knowing it was pointless. Normally, there was a ringtone, followed by an announcement that the target phone was in service range, but there was nothing. No call sound, no voice, nothing. Curious, Yasunaga,
もしもし、
hello? Said that. There was no response.
間宮さんですか？僕です。織部安永なんですが、終わったので今から帰ってもいいでしょうか？
Is this Mamiya-san? It's me, Yasunaga Oribe. I'm done for the day, so can I go back? He said what he wanted. Suddenly.
おやおや
Oh shit!
おやおやおや
My oh my, my oh my oh my.
お守りを渡して正解でしたの。
It appears I was right to give you the charm. It was a voice he shouldn't have heard there.
はるちゃん。え？
Haru-chan? Huh?
我がおるときにその呼び名はつまらんの。兄ちゃん。
Sorry, drinking there. That name is unfitting whenever I'm around Nii-chan.
ああ、ごめん。狼様。じゃなくて、神様。え、どうしてあなたに繋がったんです？
Oh, sorry, Okami-sama. I mean, God. How did it connect to you anyway? You beeped God on the line. With the Wolf King incident, he found out that Haru Makishima's game wasn't just an act. He hadn't seen her act like that himself since that time, but Chikamochi might have. However, Yasunaga knew that this entity was someone to be revered and loved. Anyway, she was too poor to have a phone, so there was absolutely no way he could have called her.
別に電話などしておらぬ。
I am not calling you. What a strange response.
我が一部を封じた5分によりて貴様を一時的に鏡としたに過ぎませぬ。
I simply used the charm I imbued with myself and gave you to make you a temporary mirror.
その電話から聞こえるように思うわ。貴様がそこから声がするのは自然じゃと思うておられるからじゃ。
You only hear me through that phone because it seems natural to you. The explanation was a bit convoluted, but he understood it.
科学的には説明のつかないことが起きてるんですね。何か象徴や意味が大事になるような。
So it's something science can't explain. Something to do with symbolism and meaning?
さすが貴様は頭がおよろしいの。あの町のお方のようじゃ。惜しいことをしたかの。
You are as smart as always, I see. Like that city dweller. I feel a slight bit of regret now.
とにかくじゃ。すぐに電話を切りなされ。
Anyway, hang up right now.
それじゃあ話せなくなるでし
Hang
ょ。
up. Huh? But we wouldn't be able to talk then.
前言撤回。貴様はタコじゃ。
I take it back. You're an idiot.
何ですかそれは。
Where did that come from?
本当に電話をしておるわけではないんじゃから、切れても話せると申しておる。
I'm saying that I'm not actually calling you and we can talk without the phone.
いいから切らぬか。死ぬぞ。
Hang up already or you'll die. He understood that she was telling him he was in a bad situation and quickly hung up.
押しました。
I did.
良きかな。
Well done.
どういう意味なんです？死ぬって。
What did you mean I'd die?
もう安心してよろしいぞ。
You can calm down now.
説明してほしいです。
I need an explanation.
小難しい説明は苦手じゃ。
I'm not good at details.
そこをなんとか。
Please try.
貴様、先ほどどこかに電話をかけたじゃろう。通じぬほど遠い相手に。
You called someone who's so far you couldn't reach them. You cannot reach them, yes?
かけました。
Yes. He was confused by the so far you cannot reach them part, but he nodded. Hisco's house wasn't far away, and phones didn't usually mind distance that much. It wasn't an international call or anything.
当起点一つと地下起点二つがたまたま時を同じくして呼び合った。逆巻きにねじり合う三角の結界を成した。
A distant point and a close point happened to call each other at the same time, create a triangle distorting in reverse.
本来交わりがたき二つの世でも点が三つあれば結界をなす。ひどく無作法で不全なる解ですがの。
With 3 points, worlds that do not usually interact can create a boundary. It is quite the rude and sinister realm.
故にそれは黄泉の無地名を呼び込む。
Thus, it summons the badgers of Yomi. God's words were too hard even for him to understand, but he did remember that God had once been called Mujina, a badger.
それはあなたとは違うんですね。
It's nothing like you, I assume.
似て非なるもの。不浄なる約定によりて人の闇から真の闇へ生まれ落ちし者ども。
We are alike, but different. They are creatures that were born out of human darkness through impure contracts and went on to fall into true darkness.
それが結界の最も鋭き核から現れ貴様を襲うやもしれなんだ。ようございましたな、我がおって。
It could attack you through the sharpest edge of the boundary. Are you not glad you have me? He really didn't feel like he'd escaped some sort of danger. However, God's roundabout words were enough for him to learn a certain truth. A distant point and 2 points that were near. If standing on the triangle made by this was dangerous, it meant that Yasunaga was standing on it too. Were the 2 other points the phones Hisako had?
間宮さんは今そんな遠くにいるんですか？
Mamiya-san is that far away now?
タコにもいないいかにも。
Indeed, that is as certain as the sea breeze is salty.
神様、山の神様でしょ。
Should a mountain god really make comparisons like that?
熱海のお刺身いい味じゃったの。
The sashimi at Atami was delicious.
食いしん坊発揮してる場合じゃないだろ、はるちゃん。間宮さんはどこにいるんです？物理法則が効かないくらい遠くって。
Now's not the time to be a glutton, Haru-chan. Where's Mamiya-san now? What did you mean when you said that physical laws don't work there?
じゃからその名で呼ぶな。気が散る。しかしまあよくよくお分かりじゃの。神の奥ゆかしさも台無しじゃ。
Do not call me that. It is distracting, but I'm impressed how well you understand this. My mysteriousness as a god is wasted on you.
その女は煉獄におる。
That woman is in purgatory. That word wasn't in his vernacular. He instantly turned around. With an empty expression, look at this gray-ass screen, Yasunaga walked up to a PC in the library and wakened it from its sleep. He turned on the browser, accessed the search site, and typed in purgatory. Since the ruin excavation book he'd wanted to read was being lent to an American school, he'd spent his time here reading a technical guide and using a PC. As a result, he'd already come to understand computer interfaces, networks, the relevant base concepts, and how to use them. He looked at the search results and opened the purgatory entry on a dictionary.
天国と地獄の間。キリスト教ですか？
The realm between heaven and hell. Christianity. He talked into the inactive phone again.
我はその神のことは言うておらんが、まあ、そのようなものにございますぞ。そういう隙間がどこにでもある。
I did not have that god in mind, but yes, it is something along those lines. Such spaces in between realms are everywhere.
人は神の居所にたどり着くので、しばしば山を、闇を、そして夢を用いる。
To arrive to a god, people must pass mountains, darkness, and dreams.
それはあまたの思い出のかけらが、茅のごとく、足のごとく茂るあれの、そこを越えて、人は神を望みまする。
They are wastelands where fragments of dreams are akin to grass. Humans must pass them to face God.
間宮さんは死にかけてるっていうことですか？
So, Mamiya-san is dying?
そうとも、違うとも言えましょうな。
That is not wrong, but not quite right.
事故とか？
Did she get in an accident?
いな。女は生きながらにして煉獄に連れられたのであろう。
No, she was brought to purgatory alive and well.
どうしてそんな？
Why did that happen?
神隠しなど、昔は珍しいものをございましたぞ。
Being spirited away was not uncommon in the past.
今は昔じゃありません。
We're not in the past.
人を欺き、かどわかす神もおりますれば、そういった神ほど恐ろしく、人の住む場所に紛れ、狡猾に潜むもの。
If there are gods who fool and kidnap mankind, they must be fearful and hide by mingling with human settlements.
特に、そのお方様は、
This one in particular is...
誰が隠したか知っているんですね。
So, you know what hit her?
その女を救いたいと仰せか、兄ちゃん。
Are you saying you would save her, Nichan?
はい。一宿の恩がありますから。
Yes, I'm indebted to her.
我を称えるか？
Will you extol me?
お土産を山ほど持って帰ります。
I'll bring you lots of souvenirs.
良きかな。
Excellent.
機械を使うのでありましょう。さらば、この国の道を行くことなく、小姉を送ることもすべからず。
Use the machine. By doing so, you should be able to send a voice to her without using the paths of this land.
聞かれているからとか。
Because someone's listening to us?
そら恐ろしいお方じゃな、貴様は。
What a scary man you are.
物分かりはいい方です。
I just understand things well. He could always bring himself ahead of the rest with his inhuman thought processes. This might have been due to the Higuchi blood in his veins. They were known to be good at government planning and tactics. Though he was not as extreme as Chikamochi, the three-legged crow and servant of God, Yasunaga was no doubt a genius.
じゃあやっぱり。
Then, this is really...
さよう。神なき国を経由し、文をしたためよ。
Indeed, you have to contact her through a country without God. Suddenly, the phone next to her ear rang, and Hisako, face wet with tears and snot, stared at the screen in shock. She could read the text. She looked around and found the anomalies were nowhere in sight. Hisako wouldn't let that fool her, though. This place was definitely unnatural. Or perhaps she herself was going insane. It was impossible to assert that the paranormal was just a delusion. More importantly, the phone. It was an email. It was from an unregistered free mail address. Upon seeing the name before the @ mark, Yasunaga, she gasped loudly. With shaking fingers, she opened the email. I pray you aren't filtering this domain. I assume you aren't, since the phone you gave me didn't have that setting. Due to certain circumstances, I found out that you might be in danger, so I'm emailing you to confirm. You are in a place you shouldn't be. Everything you see is dangerous. Don't do much, and please send me more details. I will consider how to deal with it. So formal. Use the address given here. It should work. There was a copy-paste of a very long URL there. She tried to open it but couldn't access it because the phone wasn't in service range.
ならどうしてメールは届いたの？
Then how did I get the email? As she thought about that, she got another one. I forgot to mention, I'm sending this mail from a foreign server. It seems that only networks in Japan are blocked. That's why you cannot access the local phone services and networks. The site I linked is foreign. Please open it using the internet. If you don't know how to do that, please wait while I give you instructions. Hisako was dumbfounded. Had he lied that he didn't know how to use a phone? He actually felt that he knew computers and networks even better than her. Anyway, she knew that Japanese phone networks were separate services provided by the carriers. So that was the reason why she couldn't access it. Hisako chose the URL again and picked the option to open it in the browser. Success! It was a very crude, simple website. There were some Cyrillic letters at the top, probably an explanation, along with a text form and a button which was probably used to send the text. A web chat page? That meant she had to enter her nickname, try to input her own name, and realize that she couldn't remember it. Oh. She's here. Yasunaga had already logged in as Yasu and repeatedly pressed the refresh button. Upon seeing the new person join, he raised his voice. But the person who logged in was called Okek. Was it a glitch? Did the phone display it wrong? But at that moment... Help! Says Okek. Okek. Oh. A short yet heavy message was displayed. What kind of place are you in? Kisaragi Station. I looked it up, but it doesn't seem to exist. It probably just looks like a station. Don't let it fool you. I know. I can feel that I'm in a weird place. I sometimes can't even tell what's real or not. It's bad. I can't even remember my name. That is bad. He talked to God about this while preparing, and that got him a warning from the librarian. They would take the phone away if he used it again. He had to be careful about using it, but he more or less already found out what he had to do. It was bad because of the warnings that God had given him. Don't drink or eat anything in the other world. Don't forget your own name. Don't turn around if chased. You are Hisako Mamiya-san. Hisako Mamiya. Say it and remember it. Hisako Mamiya. Yeah, that's me. Thanks. Don't eat anything. I almost ate a weird fruit. What? Are you okay? I spat it out. Was that good enough? What if just a bit of it was fatal? But then again, she didn't actually accept it. Maybe it was just fine. It was probably a question of mentality. Tell me what Kisaragi Station is like. Took a while for her to respond. There's a single set of rails, no workers. It's all dark and cloudy. There's a vending machine. Train stopped nearby. Got here by going to Tokyo. After I bought some water at the vending machine, I almost drank it before spitting it out. Everything changed and became like this warped, weird temple. Then I started feeling sick. It happened on the train too. Became a mess and I saw weird text. Apparently, these places change depending on the observer. It's the concepts that matter. Why do you know so much about this? I'll tell you once you're back. You need to focus on the situation. You're in purgatory. All places where God exists can be escaped. Huh? Where's Virgil? Where's Beatrice? And going to God means dying, doesn't it? He didn't understand what she was talking about, so he looked it up. It was from a classical work called Divine Comedy. He was impressed by how knowledgeable she was. This is goofy. I'll lead you through it. It's impossible to save you if you can get there. Trust me. If I can get there. Trust me. I don't really get it, but okay. You also might just be imagining that you don't feel so good. Try lighting a fire to feel better. I don't have a lighter and I can handle this for now. Okay, now, I had this idea. If purgatory is between heaven and hell, shouldn't they be the previous or the later stations? I see, good idea. But I don't know from where I got on this hell-heaven tour. I don't know the details, but it does seem like things could get worse if you kept riding. It did. It might have been a train to hell. Then maybe you should try heading back to the previous station. Train doesn't work, right? Right. But I don't want to ride it again anyway. Can you follow the rails on foot? Can I really trust you? I'm not 100% certain. Tell me if there's any new info. Alright, I just saw the moon. Just so you know, it's 6 in the evening here. You're joking. Is the flow of time different there? That's not what I mean. This is bad. What is it? Please respond. She really did see the moon. There was a space in the clouds covering the sky, and a reddish moon peeked through it. It was in its first quarter, a half moon. Though it wasn't bright, it had a powerful presence and seemed to shine over all the platform. She just realized the strange, unknown structure she couldn't see in the darkness had been right on top of the station. For a moment, it seemed to be a light hanging strangely high. But that was no light source. It was a giant lens that gathered the moonlight. There were also metal mirrors around, and they all occasionally released a light akin to the moon's. They were probably there to help the lens gather moonlight through focused reflection. It moved despite there being no wind. The more immediate problem was the fact that the unnatural device focused the moonlight into a ray of light. That created a red dot on Hisako's chest. The redness filled her with fear, but then she jumped back, feeling that she was being targeted on purpose. It was like a moment from a movie where a vile sniper trained their laser sight on the protagonist. The light didn't follow Hisako. Instead, it went away from her and the platform to target the train. Suddenly, like a bit of ice melting under a laser, the train lost its false appearance. The new-looking train instantly became a crumbling, rusty wreck, and then finally exposed its true form. She instinctively knew that the new appearance wasn't harmless to the sane world of men she knew. That moonlight was no light of judgment, and the moon was not the moon she knew. It was the evil moon of a different realm. Its power was to return things to their true forms. That was a light in the device. For a moment, below the pillar supporting the lens, she thought she saw a silhouette, which was either a small human or gigantic amphibian. She no longer was in a station where her eyes could be trusted. Oh, the train had begun to melt into a soft, transparent, yet still metallic material. It had chemifluorescence, the anomalous quality of the fruits. If Hisako had any knowledge in developmental biology, she would have compared it to the cellular change that happened during differentiation, which took place during the start of life or regeneration. Her impression of this event was more straightforward. It looked like a poop. Sorry. People going through metamorphosis. What was once a train was now standing. It was an extremely large beast. From head to toe, it had become a transparent body that could support its own immense flesh and bone. The white, slimy skin quickly became a red, purple-colored jelloid that spread throughout. Breaking through the bark-like material and spewing lots of mucus, the object grew branches, legs with multiple joints. They were small compared to its body, but they had the numbers. Grew more and more of these legs. And once it was done with that, the creature looked like a screw pine she'd seen in Okinawa. It felt like a malicious, heretical caricature of the strange tree that grew countless roots. That probably wasn't the best comparison. The thing was by no means a peaceful plant. This was a vile, gluttonous animal that lived only to eat and reproduce. Partially on reflex, she recorded a summary of her thoughts on her phone. Even though the extreme fear and shock had numbed her mind, she was well trained enough to pull that off. She looked down, saw the phone vibrate just before it stopped working. It had run out of battery. Hisako could no longer get help. She had to handle this herself. Her goal was to return, and for that, she had to go to God, which required her to move and run away from a grayish pillar of flesh with comb-like teeth. It was even puking something. After looking at it, she realized something. With the train gone, she could see something that she'd lost sight of before. It was a station sign. It glowed white like a lamp, and she could see the hiragana for Kisaragi from there just fine. She jumped off the platform, landed with all her limbs, and began running, ignoring the pain of the impact. She could hear thuds behind her as something soft was puked out on the floor, but she couldn't observe it. Following the rail, running on the rocks, she hurried to the station sign. It looked like this. Kisaragi. Katasu, darkness. Looking at how the train went, she'd come from Katatsu and traveled towards darkness. However, this left her confused. Katatsu, Kisaragi, darkness. What was that? Did Katatsu refer to Nino Katsukuni? The world in Japanese myth had the heavens. Oh boy, here we go. Takamagahara, the netherworld, Yomi no Kuni, and this world, Ashihara Katsukuni. Oh, it keeps going. Nino Katsukuni, also known as Ninokuni, no Kuni, had been the place where Izanagi and Susanoo lived. Due to various circumstances, such as the root part of it, it ended up being considered to be the same place as Yomi no Kuni. The afterlife, basically. Hell. Was Katatsu hell? But if that was the case, darkness would be heaven, but she barely knew any myths where darkness was good. Which is it? She began running and couldn't stop now. Where did she have to head? She was attacked by the unpleasant feeling again. Of course she would be. The sign had now displayed those disgusting hieroglyphs. She had no idea what it meant now, and behind her. Oh dear. The monster had begun to seem beautiful and lovable to her. Oh, that was a mother beyond all bonds and blood, an incarnation of motherhood that had manifested here in this world. Whoa! Look at that thing. All that she birthed would be consumed by her, then birthed again. It was an honor and a joy. The anomaly, still covered in transparent gelatin, had somehow retained a human form. It was summoning Hisako, welcoming her. She would embrace the child with those wet hands and summon her into reincarnation and the greatest pleasures. She almost felt like crying. She wanted to take off her clothing, be purified by the Great Mother, embraced by all. Even so, she could bear it. She successfully endured it. After all, she knew. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Her discovery made her laugh in a strained, maddened manner. The puzzle she'd had in her head had finally been solved. Yasunaga-kun's hint was necessary, but its direction was off. Purgatory, Rengoku, Lang. She wasn't Dante, but Randolph Carter. Kisarage meant moon-like. That meant that it was a place to gather and use power from the distant moon of illusion. The moon's power had been prepared to open up a route into the great darkness. It was the pinnacle of the madness involved in connecting to a device from the universe that rejected the laws of physics. It looked like this simply because she was Japanese and a modern person. The place was basically a kind of hell wrapped in Hisako's imagination. But if you recognize that, if you acknowledge the Necronomicon, Carter, Dreamland, Lang Plateau, Shub-Niggurath, Cthulhu, if you realize that the many mysterious stories left by H.P. Lovecraft could manifest as a real threat, then didn't that mean this world was on the verge of ending? Speaking of Lovecraft, there was... I was listening to something recently, and then they were like, but don't look up what H.P. Lovecraft named his cat or something, or his dog, I don't know, some pet. And I was like, what do you mean? And then I looked it up, I was like, what the hell? What the hell? So, I advise, don't look up the name of H.P. Lovecraft's pet. Word to the wise. Then didn't that mean that this world was on the verge of ending? As if that mattered to her. Hisako was an adult. She knew how to pick things out that were good for her and turn a blind eye to the contradictions and survive in a way that was in no way fair. The Hisako who knew the truth could ignore the fear to inspire to deal with the immediate threat. That barely made sense, but it made her pull herself together. She had no reason to hesitate any longer. Her destination wasn't Katsukuni. It was something hidden in there. Kotatsu. Kadeth Station. Ha 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 ha, what a joke! As far as she knew, this was a challenge. It was a place where few could find themselves. She didn't even know if normal people could live there. However, if the something that had led her here, she had a good guess about its identity, had made such a human-like trap, then getting there should be easy. After all, the rules had already been written. But that was when she was assaulted by the worst spell of dizziness and nausea yet. It nearly brought her to her knees. If she staggered around like this, everyone would catch her. She now understood why Yasunaga had suggested she light a fire, but she wasn't in a situation where she could do it. Would the other phone burn if she shorted its battery? What a pointless thought. The phone had a role to fill. In that case, she would use her minimal mythical knowledge to create a small fire. She opened her notepad, clenched the ball pen linked to it, and struck it against the granite floor at the edge of the stone with wriggling marks of evil all over it. The metallic ball instantly broke, but she didn't mind as long as it lasted long enough for her to finish. It would hold meaning even if made like this, surely. Line, corner, line, corner, line. Watching the transparent creature approaching her, she felt her intellect become overwhelmed by fear and panic, but she still pressed on. This was how it was supposed to look like. A warped pentagram, or a tree-like symbol of divinity. In the middle of it, there was a figure akin to an eye or a flame. It wasn't a powerful weapon. There was something better. This world would have surely have been saved from the fear of Cthulhu by now. It would surely hold no meaning against the Great Mother approaching her. But there were still its children, the unnatural heir here, and the entity controlling the moon lens. It could maybe work on them. She finished carving the Elder Sign. The next moment, the world screamed. It didn't actually deal much damage to the realm itself. However, even a simple needle could bring severe pain if used well. It was especially damaging to those who didn't expect such a retaliation. With a rending sound, things changed. First, it was the air. Perhaps not permanently, but it felt purified. Second, those chasing her writhed and faltered. The great mother behind them shook as if enraged and continued birthing more children. Now was the time. Now was the time to run. She sprinted. Hisako says, I'm going to Katatsu Station. The second phone's about to run out of battery too, and I won't be able to contact you again. I trust you. Hisako had logged in after Okek had logged out because the first phone's battery had run out. After that message, no amount of refreshing the web chat page added anything new. A while later, Hisako was logged out. No longer having any business with the empty chat page, Yasunaga closed the browser. After that, he placed the phone next to his ear.
多分そっちに向かうようです。
That's probably where she's going.
承知した。あとはお任せを。
Understood. Leave the rest to me. With just that, he closed the phone. As if to escape the librarian advancing in his direction and furrowed eyebrows, Yasunaga logged off the PC and left. There was nothing more he could do besides believe in them.
頼むよ、神様。
I'm counting on you, God. Hisako ran. She ran along the train tracks illuminated by sinister moonlight. Her legs often got caught on the railroad ties and she fell a lot. Her high heels were broken, but being barefooted would have made things even harder. Her feet hurt so much that she could barely feel her toes. She couldn't keep the tears from her eyes. Eventually, all she could do was stagger forward, but even so, she couldn't stop. She had an urge to look back. She actually thought she had to. For all she knew, she might have lost them completely. However, she knew better than the average person that turning around in such situations was a big mistake. Thus, she just continued walking. She wished to return to the boy who was worried sick about her. She would give him her thanks, as well as make him some eccentric yet delicious food. With just that in mind, she continued walking. This might have continued for an hour or two, maybe even longer. She continued walking, looking at only her legs. She walked.
お姉ちゃん
One-chan. If someone hadn't called out to her, she wouldn't have even realized that she'd already reached her destination. She was now at a shabby, dark station much like the previous one. The sign there said Katatsu. This place was
お姉ちゃん
One-chan. Called once again, she looked to her left. There was a concrete platform within reach, and on it there was a child. A silhouette of a child with a cheap-looking kimono and bobbed hair. The child's voice was androgynous and not very articulate. The moon was hidden now. The only sources of light were the sky and the sign. Hisako couldn't see the child's face.
なんでこんなところにいるの
Why are you here?
ここは行っちゃいけないところだよ
You aren't supposed to come here. The voice was innocent, but a bit strict and harsh too.
出してあげるからついてきて
I'll let you out. Come with me.
上がれる
Can you get up? The child gave Hisako a hand. She, however, merely stared at it. It was so close, yet she couldn't see past the hand's shadow. A dark child. Could it be that?
懸命でやらせられるの記者のお方
I see you are wise, journalist. A sudden, girlish voice made both Hisako and the child turn to face its source. There was a strange-looking figure near the ticket gate. She was clad in bandages and looked about 16 or 17.
お姉ちゃん悪いものが来たよ急いで逃げなきゃ
Onei-chan, we have someone bad here. Hurry, you have to run.
くくれやひとひにひとりきりたった
Once open and out of the mist, rise away again. With that, Hisako instantly knew who she had to trust. That was a song that Chiemi Serizawa taught her back in Fujiyoshi. Ignoring the child, she ran to the platform, climbed up, and hid behind the girl.
よう頑張られましたな
You have done well.
あなた安永くんの
You're Yasunaga-kun's
黙りなされ
silence.
逆らうの
You'll resist? That was no longer a child's voice. It wasn't even human. The child had been replaced by a vortex of darkness that looked somewhat humanoid. However, that wasn't true darkness. It was a chaos that consumed all, even light. For a moment, Hisako thought she'd seen 3 shining spots on his face, but she instantly looked away. If this thing wanted it, it could have prevented her from doing that. It could even crush her sanity completely. That was just how big of a deal this thing was. This is my servant. It is agreed that you cannot lay a hand on her, no? You lie. It'll become truth. Will you get in my way every time? There will not be a next time. Yes, after all, back there you were a weak god that had to follow my every whim. You were a pathetically weak god, looked down on even by the wolves and the snake. You simply cannot defy me. Yet I rose again. Yes, so please don't return here. Just stay on your mountain. Of course. I will allow it. I appreciate it. Perhaps I should take Yudai Hashimoto instead. Hisako almost stopped breathing. Why would that name come up here? There was no reason to ask. She knew it all. Please, no. Then come. How selfish. Do you think lives are cheap? That was Hisako's line. However, she didn't have the guts to talk back against this dark, crawling chaos. Why her? She is a cursed soul that had been tortured and torn apart in the midst of dreams countless times. That makes her a fitting meal for darkness. I intended to reach her with my darkness, but I let her escape in Kisaragi. Have him instead. The unnerving girl turned around to the ticket gates. It was hard to see, but there was a silhouette there. It was a very old man. But why did it seem like there was a dagger in his throat? This is a truly wicked soul. He will surely be useful to you. Probably. But it's not a fair exchange. What? Let's do this. One-chan. One-chan. You like dark, why did I say darkness? You like darkness, don't you? I will show you lots of it from now on. Huh? That's not what we agreed on. If she will not become my sustenance, then she can at least be my entertainment. Let her lament the shortness of her strand of fate and struggle to prolong it. A god is supposed to test people, right, One-chan? She couldn't say anything back. Know your place. I understand.
行くぞ、女。
Let us go, woman. The girl dragged her, past the old man who struggled for breath, and out of the station, into a dark road. As Yasunaga stood alone in the campus without purpose, the cell phone he'd borrowed rang and made him jump. It was a call from a public phone. Could it be that?
もしもし
Hello?
私、間宮久子。
It's me, Hisako Mamiya.
無事でしたか今どこです
Are you okay? Where are you?
無事っちゃ無事かな。一応5体満足だけど、死ぬほど疲れた。
I guess I'm okay. I'm not missing a limb or anything, but man, I'm dead tired.
今どこです自宅ですか
Where are you? At home?
奥多摩。
In Okutama?
え
Huh?
なんかすごい山の中に放り出された。あとはなんとかしろって。オリベ君とこの神様、シビアすぎない？
I just got dropped onto this mountain. Your god told me to handle the rest by myself. Don't you think she's a bit harsh?
まあでもいい神様ですよ
Well, maybe, but she's a good god.
そうみたいね。ちょっと遭難しかけただけで人里を出られたし。
Looks like it. I didn't have to wander for long until I found a human settlement.
タクシー乗り継いで帰る。
I'll come back in a taxi.
タクシーですかとんでもない値段になるんじゃ
A taxi? Won't that cost a lot?
もう電車には当分乗りたくないの。
I don't want to ride trains right now.
もっともですね
I understand.
とにかく迎えに行きます安全な場所で休んでいてください
Anyway, I'll come to you. Please rest where it's safe. Huh? 3 hours later, a taxi approached the Okutama bench Hisako Mamiya had been idling on.
間宮さん
Mamiya-san! The young man who'd gotten off instantly ran over to her.
本当に来てくれるとは。
Oh boy, he really did come. Her whisper made her realize just how tired she was. However, there were no signs of all the falling and vomiting she did in Kisaragi Station. Her high heels were okay too, and the ball pen wasn't broken. Her cell phones were still charged as well.
無事でよかったです
I'm glad you're okay.
実のところ、ちょっと今でも信じられないけどね。
Honestly, I still can't believe all this. By this, she meant the experience itself, and the fact that she'd escaped from that being.
でも、君がいなかったら絶対に戻ってこられなかったと思う。感謝してるよ、堀部安永くん。
But I don't think I could have made it back if not for you. Thanks, Yasunaga Uribe-kun.
いえそれより間宮さんお金を持ってますか
It's nothing. By the way, do you have money?
駅からタクシー乗ったんですがもうもんなしになっちゃいました
I took a taxi from the station to here and I'm completely broke now. She sighed, remembering that the boy was the definition of penniless. It was a valid problem to have, but it didn't make her feel good. She staggered a bit as she got up, but it was only due to her walk down the mountain and mental fatigue. Perhaps she'd even lost several of her sanity points. The thing had said that it would show her even more darkness. She wanted to brush it off as a joke, like it only said that to be a menace and ridicule her. That was the kind of being it was.
とりあえず、帰ろっか。
Anyway, let's go back.
ええどうします駅にしろ直行にしろ大丈夫だって運転手さんは言ってますけど
Yes. How though? The driver says he's okay with both the station and the direct route.
電車はな。
I'm not sure I want to ride a train.
僕が見張っておいてあげますよ
I can stand guard for you. The words caught Hisako off guard.
それならいいかしら。まあ電車の方が楽だし。
I guess that's fine then. Well, trains are less stressful anyway, right?
どうしたんです
What's wrong? She was just having a moment of weakness. This boy was really dependable, but he really wasn't her type. Hell, he was underage too. Yeah, that would be a deal breaker, Mamiya, and a lot younger than her. It'd be a crime. At least she's self-aware of the situation.
そうだ。すみませんが、近いうちに休みずに来てもらえ
A
ますか
great change of pace that from what we've seen in some other instances in this game. With some other characters. Oh, by the way, can you come to Yasumisu soon?
どうして？
Why?
なんかうちの神様が間宮さんを助けるためにいろいろあったらしくて、会わなきゃって言ってました。
Our god said that she did a lot to help you and that she needs to meet you.
僕に渡したお守りだけじゃちょっと心もとないから、ちゃんといろいろするとかなんとか。
The charm she'd given me isn't quite enough apparently, so she'll do some more on that front too. That reminded Hisako that she'd become her follower.
なんか変な儀式とかあるのかしら？
Do you have any weird rituals?
いや、今はもうないですよ。
No, not anymore.
やっぱり興味あるな、君の村。もうちょい調べさせてもらえない？一応学芸員の資格はあるんだけど。
I really am interested in your village. Can you let me look into it a bit more? I'm actually a qualified curator.
あ、それで思い出した。大学紹介の件ですけど。
Ah, that reminds me about the college recommendation.
ああ、そうかそうか。って四国まで車で行くのって大丈夫？明日の日程が終わったら夜のうちに出てとか。
Oh, there was that too. Are you okay with going to Shikoku by car? You could leave tomorrow evening after you finish your schedule.
僕は大丈夫ですけど。
I'm fine with that.
じゃあそれでアポ取っておこうかしら。その足で四国行って帰る足で富士吉村？それなら君も楽だろうし。
Then I guess that's when I'll point you to. You'll go straight to Shikoku, then return straight to Fujiyoshi. That'd be easier for you, right?
というか、明日も送迎してあげるわよ。一応軽だけど車はあるから。
You know what? I'll drive you there myself. It's a bit cramped, but I have a car.
そんなにしていただいたら悪いですよ。
Huh? You'd be doing way too much for me.
いいのいいの。今日する予定だった買い出しもする予定だし。
Ha. Don't worry. I was planning to do the shopping I couldn't do today anyway. And she didn't want to be alone.
それじゃあ、ぜひお願いします。
Then I guess I'll accept your offer. By the way.
僕も自分の故郷の歴史を自分の手で紐解けたらなって思ってるんです。
I'm thinking of unraveling the history of my homeland with my own hands.
その時は間宮さんと一緒にするっていうのもいいかもしれないなって。
So I thought that maybe I could do it together with you? Smooth.
面白いこと言うわね。そりゃ、ずいぶん長い付き合いになっちゃいそうだ。
Interesting. Well, sure sounds like we'll be working together for a while. Yasunaga began to have trouble putting his thoughts into words, which made Hisako tilt her head.
どうしたの？
What's wrong?
神様が最後にちょろっと言ってたんですけどね。帰依させるには、お嫁にとか。
God also mentioned another thing. To complete the conversion, you could marry into... Hmm?
いや、なんでもないです。ちゃんと別の方法を用意してもらえるよう頼んでおいたんで、大丈夫です。
Nothing. Don't worry about it. I asked her to prepare another method. It's okay. Seeing the boy turn beet red, she felt that he really was still a child. She found it charming, and it was a perfectly healthy impression to have.
とにかく行こうか。運転手さん待ってるし。
Anyway, let's go. Driver's waiting.
そうですね。
Yeah.
奥多摩か。駅の近くにすごく美味しいラーメン屋があるって聞いたから、そこで今日は食べよっか。
Okutama, I heard that there's a good ramen place near the station, so maybe we should get something there?
さすがプロの情報ですね。でもお金が。
Pro knows her stuff, I guess, but I don't have any money.
命の恩人にはおごるわよ。当然。
You're my savior. I'll treat you.
そんなって今更か。じゃあすみません。ごちそうになります。
But that's... I can't really refuse at this point, can I? Then sure, I'll have some. They got in the taxi, and as Hisako listened to Yasunaga give directions to the driver, she finally relaxed. She was resolved to feed him on her own food tomorrow. That sentiment was even stronger than it was this afternoon, but that was because he'd saved her life, surely. They'd then go to Shikoku. It wouldn't be just a drive, but a real trip. And then they'd visit his home. What a packed schedule. She was excited, tense, and strangely uneasy about it.
何もなければいいな。
I hope nothing happens. She'd always yearned to experience something blatantly occult and paranormal, but now she knew it was something to enjoy from a distance. Hisako suddenly wanted to see that informant, Haruaki Fusaishi, again. That insolent man had gone through a mystery she hadn't, and she felt she could bond with him over their strange experiences. It was high time she made an appointment with him, so she resolved to make one at all costs.
そういえば、間宮さん。
And by the way, Mamiya-san, as the driver began taking them to the station, Yasunaga took something out and gave it to Hisako.
何？写真？
What? A photo?
ええ。安水の遺跡から出たものらしいです。人柱になった昔の方の遺物だとか。
Yes, this thing was found in a ruin in Yasumisu. Apparently it was left behind by human sacrifices.
こんな文化、どこにも見たことないから、すごくいい研究テーマになるんじゃないかって思うんですけど。
I've never seen a culture like this anywhere else, so I think it'd be a good subject to research.
間宮さん？
Mamiya-san?
これ、あなたの神様だったりしないわよね。
This isn't your god, is it?
ええ。これは、もういない神様です。
No, it's a god that no longer exists.
なら、まあ。
Oh, I see. She felt like she'd just seen a whole new face to the world. The beast mask with 3 red eyes carved on it made Hisako think of the darkness looming ahead of her, causing her to feel lethargic and look up at the taxi ceiling. End. Oh, the horror. That truly was horror, man. That was a pretty good story. It was interesting enough. Fun little moments. And again, we get to see more of Mamiya, which we didn't get a ton of, obviously, in the main story. We have 2 more. Just 2 more, and then this game is done. Gone. To forever be forgotten on this channel. Boy and Girl versus In From Hell, which is a comedy. Oh boy, this game and it calling a comedy. You know you're in for a good time. And then documentary. Documentary? What the fuck do you mean documentary? Comedy. Alright, so the next time we'll boot this game up, we'll do Boy and Girl versus In From Hell. And then we'll do Sheep versus Stack Reports. We might as well go for the rest. I don't know how. I don't think these next ones are as. I think, like I said, I think I was told this middle one's the longest. So maybe if we're feeling adventurous, maybe next time we boot this up, we'll read both of them and knock them out. Or we just continue what we've been doing, kind of like sneak one of these onto the beginning of a stream. Is probably the more likely case. But yeah, that would then be just 2 more of these. 2 more streams. I'm gonna throw up a BRB screen. We're gonna go stretch, get some more water, and I'll boot up Nier Automata. And we'll head into that part of the stream. So I'll be back shortly. Hang tight, and we'll get Nier Automata and continue Route B in that. So be right back.